We're going to wait another 5 minutes for our chairperson, and then we'll start the meeting.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry we're starting a little bit late. Traffic was lovely today. I'm Megan Schmidt. I'm the chair of STAC and the Director of Operations at FACT. And so we'll go ahead and start with introducing our interpreter, Ruth Monroy, to kick off our interpretation, please.
Thank you. I will repeat the message in English. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, por favor desplácese a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, que es el globo terráqueo, y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom en celular o tableta, presione los puntos suspensivos, luego Interpretation y luego el idioma. To use the interpreting feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are located and click on the interpretation icon, the world. Then select your language. If you are joining using the Zoom mobile app on a cell phone or tablet, please press the ellipses, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to also ask Tessa, who's serving as our clerk today, to please confirm if we have quorum and do a quick roll call.
Good morning. I'll do the roll call first. Special interest voting member seat A, Ted Kagan. Here. And Wayne Landon, the alternate.
Here.
Special interest voting member seat B, Sharon Beckus.
Here.
At-large voting member seat A, Todd Shaw.
Here.
At-large voting member seat B, Todd Lordson. Is not here. They are absent. At-large voting member seat C, Alex Warner.
Here.
San Diego Center for the Blind is absent. Travelers Aid Society of San Diego, Marcy Rourke. And Adriana Gemhate.
Present.
Options for All and the Arc of San Diego are absent. Jewish Family Services, Marilyn Greenblatt.
Present.
FACT, Megan Schmidt.
Here.
MTS Fixed Route, Carla Perez.
Present.
MTS Paratransit, Jay Washburn.
Here.
NCTD Fixed Route, Mary Balderrama.
Here.
NCTD Paratransit, Robert Gibo.
Here.
And that confirms a quorum for this meeting.
She probably did.
Thank you, Tessa. So if we could, if anyone's joining us online, would you like to make any type of introduction? Is there anyone online?
I don't see any hand. Oh, wait a minute. Zachary Rivera has his hand raised. Go ahead, Zach.
Hi, this is Zach Rivera from Sandag. Good morning, all.
Morning, Zach. It looks like maybe two others.
And Leonardo Farrell from MTS. Go ahead when you're ready.
Good morning, everyone. Leonardo Fewell for Hire.
Good morning.
Sorry, I think you're, there you go. Try again.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry about that. Leonardo Fewell for Hire Vehicle Administration Manager for MTS.
Good morning.
And
Thank you.
Liz Santucci with Caltrans.
Good morning, this is Liz Santucci of Caltrans.
Great, thank you for joining us. All right, so before we begin, I'll review the meeting process for both members as well as members of the public who wish to participate. For members, if you would like to speak, please raise your hand and I'll call on you by your name. And for members of the public, they may provide live or virtual comments during today's meeting. If you're a member of the public here in the room, I would like to provide, on an item, please submit a speaker slip to the clerk. And if you are a member of the public joining us on Zoom, please raise your virtual hand and you'll be called on by your name or last four digits of your phone number if you are calling in. And the clerk will call on members of the public virtual first, then in person. Do any members of the working group have any questions before we continue? Seeing none. All right. So we have item number 1 as public comment. Any member of the comment, or sorry, any public comment or member comments?
I do not see any public comments on this item.
Okay. Or on, nothing on Zoom either? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
No virtual or in person.
All right. Consent. Oh. Okay. Yeah, no member comments, but if we want to go around and introduce ourselves, can. Or anyone who didn't do roll call. Great, thank you. Okay, so
now we're gonna go to consent items.
all right, so now consent, approval of the minutes and approval of the calendar for 2023. Does anyone wish to make a motion to approve?
Motion.
Jay, thank you.
Second.
And Alex with a second. Any comments from the public?
I have no in-person or virtual commenters.
Great, thank you. So all in favor, please raise your hand. And not in favor? None. And any absentations? No. Okay. Great. Item passes unanimously. Moving on to the next item is number 4, accessibility and transportation, the need for wheelchair accessible vehicles in San Diego. And during the fall of 2021, there were 2 surveys administered to assess the need for and possibility of wheelchair accessible taxi cabs or WAVEs in San Diego. These surveys were conducted through a partnership of the MTS Office for Hire Vehicle Administration, the University of California, San Diego Design Lab, the Minderoo Center for Technology and Democracy, University of Cambridge, and the Center for Community Research and Engagement, and the students in Sociology 407 Department of Sociology at SDSU. And we have Dr. Nora Schultz, Professor of Sociology at SDSU, who led the data collection and analysis efforts for the team and will present the results today.
Hi, everybody. Thanks. I did not introduce myself at the beginning so that I could do introductions now. Excuse me. Just letting somebody out of my room. Okay, I teach our field methods courses in the Department of Sociology on both the undergraduate and graduate level. And we like the students to have actual, community-based research when they learn how to do surveys and so forth, and not simply learn, how one makes a survey, but actually do real content and connect it to their understanding of sociological issues and theory. And within the Department of Sociology, we have the Center for Community Research and Engagement, and that center has been connected with the University of California, San Diego Design Lab, and there's been some good collaboration there. So through that collaboration, through UCSD's collaboration with the Office for Hire Vehicle Administration, and through a person who had been at UCSD and is now at Cambridge, the team came together to do this project to find out about, from both the passenger perspective and from the driver perspective, how to move forward in terms of wheelchair accessible vehicles in San Diego, for what are the needs of the passengers, the potential passengers, and some of the attitudes of the drivers. Next slide. So towards the end of the semester last fall, we distributed the survey essentially via email. We used a program platform called Qualtrics, and we contacted, the students contacted a number of agencies and individuals and sent out a link. The survey was available in English and Spanish. They could complete it on a computer or mobile phone. This was for the passengers, and we contacted a number of places where we felt we could get respondents who would be interested in wheelchair accessible vehicles, because that was that was the sample that we wanted, was to look at people, not the general public, but a representative sample of passengers who would be interested in wheelchair accessible vehicles. Next slide. For the taxi drivers and the owners, we were able to get an email list from MTS, and it was a list of 400 emails. As you know, those email lists are hard to maintain. We sent out blasts also through Qualtrics, And there were duplicates, so with that came down to a smaller number. We got 33 usable surveys, which is not, it's a small percentage of the overall, but it was an acceptable number to get a sense of what's going on. And for the kind of descriptive analyses that we were doing, it was acceptable for the report. Next slide. So the sample of the passengers that ended up being out of all the surveys that we collected, cleaned, got complete surveys from, we reduced it to just the people who responded yes to the question, do you have any physical impairments that require you to use a wheelchair accessible vehicle? There was 124 respondents. 55% were female and 44% were male. Next slide. And just so you can have a sense of how they were representative of the area, the household income was somewhat lower than the overall household income of San Diego, of the county, but that's not unexpected with this population. Next slide. Now, also with data collection, we did have an overrepresentation of white respondents and an underrepresentation of Latinx respondents, but we did an analysis to see if that was creating any difference in some of the outcome variables, to see if that was, skewing, impacting our results. Could we still look at these results and have a sense that we were getting a good understanding of the population? We drew a sample from a population, and can we really think about all people in San Diego who might need to use wheelchair accessible vehicles? And so rather than go back and try to continue to oversample for Hispanic or Latinos, we did some analyses and felt that we were still going to be able to use this as a representative sample. Next slide. So what did the passengers report? Next slide. So there are only 3 wave taxi cabs currently available. So when we've gone over these and our partner researcher who is currently now at Mindaru at Cambridge is somebody who requires the use of a wheelchair accessible vehicle. So she's been very helpful in interpreting the results. You get a survey and it's good to have someone who can interpret them, particularly somebody from the community. And so she felt that this might be a slight over a slightly larger number, but still indicative, because they might be responding that they're not aware and they're also just aren't available. So 82% said that they were not aware of wave service. So it might mean that they're not aware, or they're aware that there aren't any. Next slide. So here's the sort of areas and the needs that people expressed. And we had some open-ended responses, which I think are also a nice way. Survey data is great to get a sense of what's going on. But some of these answers, some of these, what we might call more qualitative answers, are really also give us a better feel for the data. I need transportation to and from my daughter's house, medical appointments, nail salon, Balboa Park, zoo, SeaWorld, restaurant, shopping, my dad's home, beaches, the outside world, outside from my nursing home. So you can see people are, this person in particular saying she needs to go everywhere. So this graph shows you the percentage and people could answer more than one, but mostly people wanted transportation for leisure or entertainment. That was the highest, and very close to that was non-emergency medical. Lower end was education and employment. Again, people may not be going to school or work. So you can see it's basic needs. It's getting to the airport, it's getting to trains, it's getting to food shopping. And as I said, the non-emergency medical and leisure. Next slide. So we also wanted to find out what people were using, and the two options that we found people were using the most were the fixed route public transit or having a friend that take them. There was a little bit of a different pattern for travel and medical emergency, but overall, when we looked across these various, the same destinations in the previous slide, this seemed to be the two options that were the predominant for across the types of destinations. Next slide. All right, so this is a little harder to read. It's the definitely is it's sort of the largest bar to the as I'm looking at it to the left. What would make you more likely to use a taxi cab wave service? And so you can sort of look across and see 24-hour service, on-demand service, convenient, those, so definitely that was sort of the brighter orange, and then sort of the beige next to it is the very probably. So you can sort of look there and see, but really, which ones were the absolute most. Of course, all these things seem to be important to people. When I drilled down recently on the numbers with another class, we were sort of looking at this and the certification and the mode of payment. When we did another round of this it is a little less important, but it's really the convenience, the on-demand, and affordability. And so here's another quote. There is no such service in our county. Trust me, I have looked. Our county is not wheelchair friendly at all. Now with COVID and a lot of wheelchair users being high risk, it's a huge risk to take public transportation. So drivers would need to be considerate, professional, caring for others, and non-smoking. Next slide. So what about the drivers? Well, 85% of this smaller sample said it's important for San Diego or any city to have wheelchair accessible taxis, but only 45% were interested in acquiring them. So that seems to be, sort of an odd finding, but not when you kind of drill down a bit and find out what's going on with the drivers. Next slide. Because why they're not interested is this was sort of out of the blue, this questionnaire, right? And it wasn't like, that there would be any support offered. So what they noted was 48% said there's higher operations costs and time is money. So this 35% that noted the increased time to assist passengers, that's also money. So the flag drop and per mile is too low for wheelchair accessible cab. Wheelchair accessible companies, for example, secure transportation charges almost 4 times more for the same ride. And so it's just not cost effective. Next slide. So the incentives, not surprisingly, are that they need financial assistance. And then there were some smaller percentages, but really it is a matter of some sort of financial assistance for the taxi cab drivers to be able to provide this service. Next slide. So that's really it. I mean, my late husband needed to use wheelchair accessible vehicles, which is one of the reasons it was really interesting for me to be a part of this. And I know how very difficult it was for him at a particular point to be able to get the transportation he needed. And, the need is there, the interest is there, but the taxi drivers clearly have a concern about time and cost. Thank you. And I'm I'm happy to take any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your presentation, Dr. Schultz. Do we have any comments from the public?
Yeah, that's in the
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez.
I have no in-person or virtual commenters.
Tessa, we do. Dr. Timbalish has a comment.
My apologies. I'll get his speaker slip when he's done. Dr. Bailish, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Apologies for the delay. I just had a comment and a question about it. Some of the people, Mayor Hall from North County, have been pushing the ideas of these multi-occupant autonomous vehicles to integrate with the networks that are being created. And I was just wondering if these appear to be single-use taxi rides, and if there's any thought that the systems like the Beep, which seem to be outfitted for non-wheelchair access, whether some of those vehicles might have a space for wheelchair access to help bring down the costs of providing these types of vehicles. And my name is Tim Bilash. I'm up in Mid-County Coastal, San Diego. Thank you.
That we defined, Lily's going to speak to that if she could be given permission to speak.
Hi, I'm Dr. Lily Irani from UC San Diego's Design Lab. Thank you so much for this question. I would say that I think that the barriers to a multi-occupant vehicle, which is a really great idea, would be getting getting on-demand software that could dispatch taxis and do multi-occupant ride sharing, as well as driver training. And that's something that can be organized and coordinated. In terms of autonomous vehicles, there's a lot of excitement about autonomous vehicles, but also when you talk to experts who are in charge of providing, say, parking and transportation at university campuses. I also study automation, actually. There's a lot of invisible capacities that drivers provide in terms of helping people get in and out of vehicles, maintaining safety and communication among passengers, helping people kind of get to the door. So I think there needs to be more research about what an autonomous vehicle would look like, really for anybody, but especially for people with disabilities, because people with disabilities are often dealing with a surrounding environment that's not optimized for their embodied capacities. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
There are no more public commenters.
Thank you. Looks like we have a member comment from Wayne. Question.
Yeah, I just had a question. They mentioned that it's money usually that keeps us from being able to have accessible taxis and stuff. Oh, sorry. It seems like it's the money that's keeping us from the taxi people from making accessible taxis and things like that. But when I go to other cities, and I don't travel a whole lot, but I go to DC and Vegas, a few different places, and they all have accessible cabs when you call up to get one. So why is it different there? What are they doing that we're not?
Good point.
Would Lenny Fuel actually be interested in speaking to that? Because MTS has been doing research on this issue, and Lenny's in the room.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Can he speak? He's online.
See, Lenny has his hand up in the attendees. Does he need to be given?
He's being promoted currently.
Muted.
You are muted.
Okay, here we go now. Thank you for the access. Can you hear me now? Yes. Perfect. Well, thanks, Dr. Schultz, Dr. Irani, and Dr. Hickman over there in London for helping us with this marvelous survey that provided a lot of insight. And to answer the question of our board member, some other cities like Washington, D.C. is one of them, along with New York. They have a stipulated number in their policies as to how many wheelchair accessible vehicles need to be in service in order for that franchise to be operable. So the answer to that is that it's a policy. It's a result of their policies, and that's the purpose why we're trying to revise our policy here in San Diego to ensure that there is an optimal number of wheelchair accessible vehicles. And that's where we're starting from. But here in San Diego, unlike Washington, D.C., or New York, that, for instance, has a stipulated number of 50% of wheelchair accessible vehicles, they're not there yet. But that's what's stipulated in their regulatory policies. So the basis for the policy that we're trying to develop here in San Diego will be based on incentives, and that we are exploring what other agencies in other cities are doing. We conducting a peer agency review to see what incentives they're using, and also what policies they have to incentivize the introduction of wheelchair accessible vehicles. And we are in the process of compiling those recommendations and issuing them probably by early next year, and also to find a way how to implement them in the hopes that more wheelchair accessible vehicles come into the San Diego market.
Thank you, Leonardo. I was wondering, is there no requirement in San Diego for a certain percentage of accessible taxis currently?
Yes, well, back in October 27, there was a revision made by the city of San Diego to the requirement, which in their city policy 500-02, which is the city policy that governs the taxi cab permitting process for the city of San Diego. And that requirement just proved not to be productive. It basically said that if you were already a permit holder and wanted to acquire an additional permit, then that permit needed to be a wheelchair accessible vehicle. As a result, permit holders avoided purchasing more vehicles, not to fall onto that requirement because of the high prices of acquiring those vehicles. And another thing that should be noted is that that requirement was there since 2016, and between those years, the taxi and for hire transportation market changed dramatically due to the advent of TNCs. So that prompted us to work with the city and remove and revise that requirement in the hopes of coming up with a more practical and pragmatic policy recommendation, which is what we're working currently with.
Thank you. We have a lot of vendors in our brokerage at FACT, and several of them operate wheelchair accessible vehicles, and I've heard a lot of the same feedback from them as far as insurance challenges and barriers with permit costs, regulation, things like that, operating costs, all of it. So I definitely appreciate all the information here, and I'm hopeful that things can improve with more collaboration between different agencies, and hopefully as well with the award of the Access for All grant, which is new across California to help with on-demand wheelchair transportation. I think we might have had a few more hands. Wayne?
This might be more of just a statement, getting my frustrations out. The other thing that bothers me is like Uber Wave and Lyft and those programs. And I know that the state of California required them to develop something or pay a cost. It seems to me that they've just accepted that that's a easier way to get around it, and they pay the cost, but there's no wheelchair accessible vehicles made available. And it's the same thing with them. I know that, since they're contracting out to private entities and personnel, that who's going to have a wheelchair accessible vehicle that that they're willing to go and pick up people in wheelchairs, and it's just not there. So maybe there needs to be some kind of a I don't know, law that would say that they would have to have so many wheelchair accessible. I just remember when they came out and it was in the San Diego Tribune that they had Uber Wave, and now they had accessible wheelchairs. So I went and got some transmission work done on my van, and I had it all set up on my phone and sent out for a Uber Wave wheelchair accessible van. They says there is none. So I had to sit there for the day until I could get my van fixed. But it's just another frustration that they're just able to get around that completely without providing any.
So, yeah, one sec, Sharon. So Megan kind of hinted towards it, but like you said, the state law a couple of years ago passed that the Uber and Lyfts, TNCs had to start paying 5 cents a ride. Well, or 10 cents, sorry, yeah, 10 cents a ride to make wheelchair accessible better, right? And so it took the California PUC a long time to start collecting that money and then make the program to distribute that money. And so this Friday at our board meeting, we're going to present an item about the funding that we got from that. So essentially what happened, you got it right. Uber and Lyft and all of them just said, we don't want to try to make accessible rides a thing on our end. We'll just pay the fine or the fee and pass it along to the state, who then passes it to us. And so we have a new grant program that will use that money that we've been collecting from the state to start the program. And so this Friday at the board meeting, Ben from San Diego will present that item. They put the call for projects out probably 6 months ago or so, and just got the applications back a few months ago. And so this Friday, they're going to announce the award of that. And so FACT actually was the winning applicant for that program. And so what they're going to be required to do is provide on-demand wheelchair accessible vehicles. And the idea is in lieu of what Uber and Lyft aren't doing, essentially. And so this money, that 10-cent fee, it will continue for a few more years at least. When COVID hit, so they were collecting it well before COVID, about a year or so before, a lot of money came in for us, and that's what we're going to start spending here in the next couple months. Once COVID hit, that went way down, but it's already back up again. Obviously the rides are going, they're still not providing wheelchair rides, so they're still having to pay that 10 cents. If they can prove they're providing wheelchair rides, they don't have to pay the 10 cents and they offset it somehow, but they're not even trying in San Diego. I think they've tried in LA and maybe Orange County, but they're not really trying, because I think, like we just saw from Dr. Schultz's presentation, the vehicles is part of the taxis problem, and Uber and Lyft's problem as well, is trying to find the vehicles and get the riders and make it affordable for them. So I'm looking forward to, with this Friday's board decision, to allocate the money, see what happens with FACT, and they're going to work with, because they don't actually provide transportation themselves, so they're going to work with a lot of the vendors in the county, and they do have the wheelchair vehicles that they win through their awards and get them out there. So I'm looking forward to something. It's going to take a while, right? I don't know how long it'll take to get it fully on the street and see what happens, but I think hopefully that helps your frustration, but we'll see, right? I mean, and then in terms of, other state laws of, just if they'd have just required them to have the wheelchair vehicles with higher penalties or something, we probably would have seen something different 4 or 5 years ago, but I think their lobby is pretty strong and they pushed against those types of things. I think the taxi cab lobby probably is pretty strong as well and pushed against the requirements to have X many wheelchair vehicles. So it's we'll see. So hopefully I do like, though, this fee has been charged and collected, and we'll see how it rolls out.
If I may speak to that as well. So one thing, Wayne, one issue with your frustration is that the employment model that Uber and Lyft insist on, it requires drivers to be independent contractors. And so they will never be able to kind of do the training and enforcement of some drivers having wheelchair accessible vehicles. But also, one point that I want to make sure doesn't get lost in our survey is that the demand for the demand disabled riders have for on-demand transportation is not restricted to seniors or even to people with documented disabilities. So there's there's anecdotally, people in their late 20s who are in a wheelchair and who want an on-demand ride so they can go to a concert and be with their friends. There's people who are traveling. One of the one of the authors of the study, she was an international student at UCSD. And so she didn't have the required disability documentation to actually get services from FACT. And she was, reliant on the one wave that was on the road at the time. And there's also a symbolic importance for having on-demand taxis available to everyone, including with people with disabilities, is something we've heard from the disability community that we've been in communication with. And so having an agency that is only focused on seniors and people with documented disabilities and primarily focused on providing, say, medical transportation, it does not satisfy the needs for leisure, for leisure and for work that we've been hearing, or the needs of travelers who are coming through San Diego and just want to access our universal infrastructures. So if you're interested in learning more about this, you can send me an email. There's a coalition of 30 people in wheelchairs and allies who drafted a letter about why we need a diverse ecology of on-demand transportation in San Diego that builds on the results of this study.
Thank you. I think that's, one of the reasons why AFA needed to happen is because there was a lot of funding through the senior mini grant program that was specifically for seniors, and then a percentage could be used for people with disabilities who are not a senior. But with AFA, there's no restriction on the amount of seniors you must, help with the grant. So then that means there's more funding for those who may not, qualify under a different type of program. So it's very, very exciting, and hopefully that will make a big difference. Sharon, did you have a question or comment?
Yes, this is Sharon Beckus. I have a question for Dr. Schultz regarding the survey. Talking about drilling down, when you drilled down, how did you drill down on the fact of the ethnicity? In other words, if the Latinx community responded less to using these facilities, these offerings, did you drill down to find out why? Is that because they have better family support? Is it because of economics? And the same thing with all ethnic groups. How did you go down deeper with those questions to find out why they weren't interested or why they weren't using it? Thanks.
No, those opening slides were comparing the ethnicities in our sample to the ethnicities in San Diego to make sure that our sample was representative of San Diego so that we could share the results and know that we had found a good sample. And so what the differences were is that we had a smaller percentage of Hispanic and Latino people in our sample, not that they were using less. And what we compared was, were there differences on the outcomes? And there weren't. And so there weren't significant differences on the outcomes, which is why we were able to go forward. Otherwise, we would have had to continue to collect data and collect and gone out and what you say oversample and specifically reached deeper into the into Latinx and into Hispanic communities in the area to shift those percentages. But when we did some preliminary analyses and we looked at the responses, we felt that there weren't significant differences there, and we felt comfortable using the population that we had. We did not do breakdowns of the outcome variables, sort of the types of transportations that people wanted and so forth by ethnic group or by gender, partly because it was sort of overwhelming when you've got 80% of your population going one way. That's something that could be done to see. We could look across ethnic groups and across the genders. We could to see what differences in patterns emerged. But our numbers were somewhat small in this sample, 124, so they would get even smaller across the ethnic groups, and it would be harder to draw conclusions, but it's something that could be done. Thank you. It's a very good question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member comments? Seeing none. Thank you so much for your presentation. And we look forward to seeing some better results here soon. And thank you also, Leonardo, for your input as well.
Thank you all very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much. It was really great to hear from the group.
Thank you, everyone.
And next we have item number 5, which is a presentation by Kelvin Crosby on See Me Cane.
Here, keep going forward. There you go. That's the podium. Oh, right there.
Perfect. All right. We're gonna play the video and I'll do my presentation.
Kendall, can we do the YouTube video?
Those of us that are blind and have limited vision, one of the most useful tools that we can have is a white cane. But how well do they actually work? A white cane can help a blind person get to one point to another without too many problems. But how well does it help blind individuals to be seen? Do white canes really help blind people be seen? What happens when a blind man takes a white cane to the city? Come on this journey with me and let's find out. The answer may surprise you, and we consider the role of a white cane. I'm here at the bus station waiting for my bus. Will the bus driver see me and stop for me? Nope. I'm at a stop sign. Will this car see me crossing at this stop sign with my white cane? Nope. I'm at a major intersection. Will the driver that's taking this right-hand turn see me? Nope. The cane works well for me to have independence. It does not protect me or give me confidence that people around me will see me. That is exactly what I need at these moments. That is why I created the first fully lighted blind cane that you can see from 100 yards away. Personally, I've been hit by a car 3 times in my life. It's said that 1 of every 3 blind individuals will be hit by a car in their lifetime, which is 87 million visually impaired people will have this experience at least once in their lifetime. I need your help so we can empower blind and low vision individuals with a lighted blind cane. That way they can have the confidence in knowing the environment and see them when crossing the street. You want to help me make this happen? You can do that at seemecane.com. So let's bring awareness to this problem as well. Let's build the See Me Cane, the first fully lighted blind cane. Like I always say, go live beyond your challenges. So I do apologize. I'm as a blind guy trying to edit his own videos. So if there's blind issues, forgive me. So I thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to talk to you about the See Me Cane. And this project's been a long project to get to this point. And so like I've said, I've been hit by a car 3 times and I'm kind of sick of it. And so to solve this problem, we needed to start working on a cane that said, hey, can you see me from a distance, from 100 yards away? So when I started doing the research, I interviewed 100 people that were visually impaired. I went at the National Federation for the Blind, and I asked one question: have you been hit by a car? It was hard pressed to find there was only 2 people out of 100 people. Sorry, I didn't realize there was a microphone there. Out of 100 people, I only found 2 that had not been hit by a car. Whether that's the cane being hit, whether that's a body part being hit, or even just being severely hit. What I'm finding that this number is not correct. And I really want to work on solving this number and really nailing it down to understand how many visually challenged individuals are really being hit. So my solution to stop this problem, so we can go to the next slide, is the See Me cane, the first fully lighted blind cane that you can see from 100 yards away. Yes, people have tried to make the cane, and there is a competitor in the market that kind of does the job, but it really doesn't do the job because it's still a very heavy cane. And this solution is the first solution that feels, behaves, and acts like a normal blind cane, but it has a very powerful part. And that way you can see it from 100 yards away. So let's go to the next slide. So how does it work? So it's fairly simple, because if you think about it, a blind cane, it's just a stick that you just use and you sweep and you fold, you do everything you normally do every day. So I wanted to develop a product that would be really simple and just add 1 or 2 new behaviors to your cane. So in this case, I have my cane here. So let me just double check that it's on. Yep, it's on. So you got the light on, and then there's an on and off switch that just turns it on and off. And then there's a vibration motor on it, so that vibrates, and it vibrates in the handle. And that tells you if it's on, that the light is on. But if I turn it off, it won't vibrate. So that's how you know if the light's on or off if you're blind. So the other thing is super easy to charge. You just go ahead and plug a USB-C into it, and it charges, and you get 2 hours of battery life. And what I have found, the reason why I put an on and off switch rather than like a sensor to indicate that your hand's on it, because when you're in an environment, like for example, I was at Fashion Valley Mall, and I was getting ready to go to the trolley, and I'm like going through the parking garage. I'm like, I don't know if I want to identify everybody that I'm blind, but I need my tool to help independent. So that's why we have an on-off switch, and also being aware when it's, I mean, visually impaired individuals, we all say, is this a safe environment, or do I need to be seen in this environment? I mean, we're smart enough to do that. And so that's why with an on and off switch, we can make the decision when we need the light and when we do not. So let's go to the next slide. I'm trying to remember what this slide is. I can't see it. So market research. So here in San Diego, we have 107,000 individuals that are visually challenged. If you break that down by the percentage of how many people use blind canes, that's 10%. And so you can do the math. I'm not that smart, so you can do the math and kind of figure that out. But this is why this is something that's tangible to get to if we were just to look at the San Diego population and say, could we put a See Me cane in the hands of visually impaired people, and so that way they don't have to pay for it. So let's go to the next slide, and this is my ask. Are you willing to help me put a See Me cane in every visually impaired individual that needs a cane for free? So that's my ask. So that's my presentation, and love to kind of hear your guys' feedback, what you guys' thoughts on this idea, and I can kind of go into a little bit more what I'm looking for. So,
thank you so much. I'm wondering if you've been in contact with like the people that are doing Vision Zero.
What did you say?
Vision Zero. Is it Circulate San Diego that does that? Yeah, where they're working on trying to have zero accidents, right? Vehicle accidents. I was wondering if maybe you've reached out to them.
Actually, that's the first time I'm hearing them. That's really helpful for me, though.
Sure. Yeah, Circulate San Diego, I believe, is the name of the organization that works on that project. But maybe they could be of help with that. Any public comments, questions? Member comments, Wayne?
Yeah, I was just wanted to say that was very powerful, that little video.
Thank you.
And I'm it would be great to have that on a TV spot. I really think it needs to be to show the general public just how dangerous it is out there. And I applaud you for your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Ted?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Crosby. I think it's a great, for a person who is visually impaired myself, I think it's a great idea and love to know more of how to contact you and perhaps discuss this in further detail.
Yeah, in my email on any of the information that's out there.
I can provide everyone at STAC with the email.
Thank you.
I'll send a follow-up email with some other links and stuff today, and so I'll include his information as well.
That'd be great. Yeah, and the other thing is, I am working with the Center for the Blind. They did a round of beta testing. I'm hoping to get another cane in the new version of the cane next, hopefully by the end of the year. So my goal to use here in San Diego, to use Center for the Blind, the orientation ability instructors here, they're super excited about the cane, and they've been testing it. They've been working with some of the students there. And I mean, it's hard to find somebody saying, this is not a good cane. So, but yeah, definitely send me an email. Let's have a chat. And especially, what's funny is this is the first time I've done anything with the CB cane locally. I do most of my work nationally. So I do a lot of people, there's canes all over the country right now, so.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Sharon.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. You said you have a cane in beta. Can you tell me what enhancements you're making in the beta? And you have a USB charge. It only lasts for 2 hours. Do you take a power brick with you? How does that work?
Yeah, so the cane that we have right now, so let me just give you a quick story. So when I started building the cane in 2019, and then when 2020 came, we all know what happened. I lost all my funding for the cane. And so I needed to start a new business. So I built a brand new business called the Deafblind Potter. And if you've seen the news, I've been on the news. I've been on Good Morning America. I have over 200,000 followers on TikTok and all that. That funded the cane. And I was able to take the selling of pottery to make more CB canes. During that time, I lost more vision in my eyes to the point I could not do my own engineering. So I then decided I had to outsource it. So I found somebody that was able to give me a good price, outsource it. Because of how much money I've been able to make, I could not increase the battery life. And so right now I'm in a situation where this cane is just right for right now. We're gonna make new versions where we'll get longer battery life, but 2 hours, what I have found, you don't need the light on all the time, unless you really want it on all the time. So on a normal travel, in regards to the 12 people that we did do a really aggressive beta test with, they said, yeah, I mean, 2 hours was a good from one full route to be able to have enough battery life for that. So for now, we're content with 2 hours, but yes, my goal is to get to 20 to 24 hours, but financially I could not get us there yet, so.
And how do you charge it? Do you take a power brick with you?
No, you just plug it in the wall with a USB-C.
The length of time to charge?
It's basically for every minute is 1 minute battery charge, 2 hours.
Thank you.
Heidi?
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I use an ordinary old cane, and I have not been hit by a car, but I travel very, very cautiously. I don't go out after dark. I'm really careful. So, but my question is, and I will be in touch with you. You can't. Oh, thanks. You couldn't hear me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I'm also deaf, so.
Yeah, I'm suffering a little bit too.
So.
So my question is, are the CB canes available for personal purchase? And if so, how much do they cost?
So CB canes are $200. So right now, so this is the most beautiful part of this whole story, is I had a friend, he raised over $20,000 to help me start making the first 200 CB canes. And so the whole mission behind the CB cane business is to give the canes away. I don't want to see a single blind person buy their cane, because we all know the blind population, the visually and challenged population, 25% of us are working. 75% of us are not. So a $200 price tag is not easy to do. So I built my model, my business, behind the idea, let me crowdfund. I already know how to raise a big audience, and I already know how to tell a good story. So let's crowdfund so I can give these canes away. So that's what we're doing. So to be able to buy one, if you need a cane, reach out to me, send me a message via the website or an email, and I'm gonna put you on the list. And as canes come through, and I'm gonna get, and we do have a production line issue. I mean, everybody has that issue at the moment. So we will have the first 50 ready to go out in February, and then we'll have probably the next one ready to go out in April or May. So there is 2023 is gonna be a little bit of a rough getting all the canes out, but we plan to have it all solved out by 2024. So
I think that's really exciting. I think it's a wonderful production.
thank you.
Any other member comments? No. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We do have a public commenter on this item,
Public
Chair.
comment. Okay.
Ethel Miranda, please go ahead when you're ready.
Hi, am I unmuted?
We can hear you.
Oh, great. All right, thank you. Well, I wanted to, first of all, thank you so much for your presentation. Really appreciate that. And what really caught me, and I really want to point it out, thank you so much for, having that service in mind, that it is something you're not wanting to profit off of, because I am totally blind and use a white cane. And I know that a lot of my blind community members, that we speak together, and I know we've had conversations about, getting hit, getting run over. That's always on our mind when we step out there. Safety is always huge, and it is tough. But yeah, that you're, we're wanting to get it out there and helping everybody out, regardless of whether they can afford, because I've actually, helped, try out beta other canes, and knowing full well that they, have maybe improve on a white cane a little bit, but knowing full well that I'm never going to be able to afford it. Neither will some of my friends. So I applaud you, and I'm excited. That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ethel, and thank you, Calvin.
Thank you, guys.
And that concludes the public commenters.
And next we have item number 6, which is an update on the Kumeyaay Corridor Comprehensive Multimodal Corridor Plan with Senior Regional Planner April De Jesus.
Hi, everyone. My name is April De Jesus, and I'm a project manager for the Kumeyaay Corridor CMCP, or Comprehensive Multimodal Corridor Plan, and I'm here with David Calkins from Caltrans.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is David Calkins. I'm an associate transportation planner with Caltrans District 11, and I'm filling in today for our Caltrans project manager, Melina Pereira.
And the Kumeyaay Corridor CMCP was named in honor and respect for being located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded lands of the Kumeyaay people. So in September of 2019, SANDAG Board of Directors allocated funding for 11 corridor plans throughout the region. And we started with 6 initial CMCPs. 4 are currently under development and 2 have been completed. And these CMCPs are created to evaluate different travel modes and transportation facilities throughout our region, and also recommend different projects to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and increase travel choices. And these CMCPs are required for different funding opportunities, including SB1 funding, which can also be leveraged for other regional transportation projects. So this is our schedule for our CMCP. We completed our existing conditions analysis, and we are currently trying to collect public input for our corridor and collecting information and feedback from our engagement website online. And early next year, we should come back and share some of our transportation solution recommendations and also reach out and hear feedback from the community for those project lists, and we hope to finalize the CMCP in summer of next year. Here in the dark purple is our project area, and the CMCP runs from the bay all the way to Lakeside, and it's approximately 24 miles. And in the light blue, you'll see the project area of influence. And we recognize that there are a lot of communities that are impacted by the Interstate 8 corridor that would also be influenced by some of the transportation projects that we recommend. And then in the purple outline next to the shield for I-8, you'll see that the Mission Valley Community Planning Area is also highlighted. At the same time as we're developing the CMCP, we were also awarded a Caltrans planning grant to look specifically at the Mission Valley community and look for access options for that project area. So you'll see us have a stronger focus in that area as part of our report. So in our project area, we have about over 20% of the population housing and jobs for the San Diego region. And the study area includes a substantial number of seniors, low-income households, and Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And understanding these numbers, we recognize that a focus on our social equity communities is very important as we develop these recommendations. So you'll see on these 3 maps that the greater concentrations of these the social equity communities are located in the Linda Vista, City Heights, and El Cajon areas in our county. This slide summarizes the travel flows as they relate to our project Kumeyaay Corridor. And out of the 11.4 million trips that occur in the region each day, over 30% start or end within our study area, which is approximately 3.45 million trips. And of those daily trips, approximately 6% are for people by walking, 1% by bikes, and the remaining 93% are using vehicles, whether they're single occupancy cars, carpooling, rideshare, or public transportation. So it's important to note that over 1/3 of these trips are for distances that are less than 2.5 miles. And with the appropriate infrastructure and technology improvements, many of those trips can be converted into active transportation or short transit trips. And now I'm going to transition to David so he can talk about the challenges and opportunities to provide us with feedback.
Thank you, April. So an important part of our existing conditions analysis was identifying the challenges that exist throughout the corridor. So I'll start off by talking about some of the active transportation challenges. So physically imposing roadways can limit access for cyclists and pedestrians, and this corridor is no exception to that. The study area is aligned with the I-8 freeway and contains several other intersecting freeways located along the corridor. And we see that there exists a limited amount of crossing points along these freeways. And when crossing is available, it's often very uncomfortable for people walking and bicycling. Another challenge when we look at active transportation in the corridor is the lack of facilities that serve people of all ages and abilities. Bike routes along wide arterials like 4 to 6 lane roadways can actually deter people from using the bike lanes instead of encourage them. And intersections with poorly marked crosswalks may also not be comfortable for pedestrians to cross. There are also a number of transit challenges that exist in the corridor, specifically related to limited access to transit and high quality transit services. So the image to the right in this slide is showing an accessibility assessment of 7 of the Green Line trolley stations in Mission Valley. The pink circles represent a half-mile crow flies buffer from each of the stations, and the yellow shapes indicate a half-mile travel shed utilizing the existing network. So this would be if you were to walk or bike a half mile from the station utilizing the roadways. And the stations to the right in the blue dotted circle, which include Fenton Parkway, the former Qualcomm Stadium, and San Diego Mission stations, those all have poor accessibility to the south across the San Diego River and the I-8 freeway. And this is largely due to the lack of north-south infrastructure connections. Also, Alvarado and 70th Street stations have similar challenges to this. And then when transit is available, travel times are just simply too long. We can see there are several causes for this. For example, buses stuck in traffic, a need for multiple transfers to reach a destination, or too many stops along a route. And the image on the left highlights this challenge, and you can see that it takes about an hour by transit to get from City Heights to Sharp Memorial Hospital, whereas if you were to take a car, it would only take about 12 minutes. And then there are also a lot of roadway and vehicular challenges in this corridor. Roadway safety is a critical concern for this study area, and as you can see on the cluster map to the right, many of the collisions are concentrated along freeways and arterials. One example for this is the closely spaced ramps that exist along I-8, and at these locations, cars are entering and exiting, they're changing lanes or weaving, and they're moving at high speeds in order to merge or exit. Greater traffic volumes are also present during the morning and evening commute times, and this results in congestion and the backup of traffic on freeways and major arterials. So we specifically see this at key exits and off-ramps, especially in Mission Valley, where lines of cars will spill into the passing through lanes of the freeway. And the corridor, much like the greater region and the state, is subject to the growing impacts and hazards of climate change. So just to highlight a few of these on the slide, overall temperatures are rising, and there will be more frequent and severe heat waves. There will be droughts and wildfire events that we experience in greater frequency. And the impacts of these are already felt across the valley floors and the hillsides of this corridor. Sea levels are also rising, and flooding will increase as we experience more intense storm events. Portions of the study area, especially in Mission Valley, currently exist within the 100 to 500 year floodplains of the San Diego River. And these areas are already prone to inland flooding during normal storms. So the image on this slide shows the effects of last year's winter storm in Fashion Valley and the subsequent road closures that occurred. So while we develop the CMCP, we'll need to focus on the climate stressors shown, as these will be the most impactful to the San Diego region. Many of these are inherent to the natural topography and geography of the corridor, but they are exacerbated by the high degree of impervious coverage and the built environment that exists there. So another important part of this CMC process is public engagement. And so we're currently gathering input from the community, and we would like to hear from all of you as well. Sandag and Caltrans are utilizing a virtual engagement hub, and this is available online in both English and Spanish. And the website is dedicated to providing updated project information and opportunities for you to participate. And you can access it with a smartphone by scanning the QR code here on the slide, or follow the URL on your computer to access the website. And you can do things such as take a survey about transportation in the corridor, leave a comment or a question, or complete an interactive mapping activity where you can drop pins on a map to show us geographically where your concerns might be. And engagement through this website is only open for a few more weeks. It's open until December 2nd, so we encourage you to leave your comments. And then we've also completed several outreach events already for this CMCP. We've done a number of in-person events such as the Sandag Community Fair and presentations to specific community-based organizations. And we've also done some virtual events such as our virtual public workshop in September. So I'll now pass it back to April to close out the presentation.
So on this page are different ways that you can contact us if you have any questions or want to be more involved with our CMCP. And that also includes this website location for the virtual engagement hub and the QR code to scan. And we would appreciate it if you did share it with any of the contacts that you have that would be interested in providing us with challenges and opportunities for our project area. And we are open to answering any questions you might have.
Thank you both, April and David. Any public comments, clerk?
I do have one in-person public commenter, Dr. Tim Bailash.
Thank you once again, Council. My name is Tim Bailash, Mid-County Coastal. I wanted to thank David Calkin and April de Jesus for the presentation. I had 3 brief comments. Last week, I came back in the evening on Sorrento Valley Parkway going westbound near I-5, and the westbound lane was completely flooded out. They had to close that, and we were driving into the oncoming to try to pass that. It's a serious issue, so thank you for bringing that up, and thank you for this great presentation. You mentioned the transit trips where people are also going through the county to the south or back up to the north. And I'd be interested in a characterization of this. How far away are those people coming? Is it trans-state traffic? Is it local traffic? And the time of routes for that. But also I might mention the eastern access along the I-8 corridor going into the next states is a major route for people coming. And so to characterize how much of this is trans-state traffic, local traffic, and things like that, because it might be good for those people to come and perhaps park or stop at the eastern bounds of the San Diego County and then take mass transportation or other kinds of connections to decrease the traffic on that I-8 corridor. So appreciate you taking my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
That concludes the public comments.
Thank you, Tessa. Any member comments? Not seen any. All right. Moving on to the next item is number 7, unmet transit needs. And we'll hear first from Brian.
So this is our standing item, trying to keep this on our radar as we prepare for the next version of our coordinated plan and our annual unmet needs hearing. To be honest, I think as we were meeting earlier, was it earlier this week, dry run? Last week? Still not quite sure how we're going to keep this item moving and relevant. I know we discussed a few things at the dry run with Alex and Megan, but we are, like I said, kicking off the coordinated plan next summer, and we'll be doing the budgeting for that fiscal year in the next couple months. So I think, we'll add in probably more hours and survey costs and things like that to try and, I think, supplement this. So as we continue to meet bi-monthly at this group and then kick off the coordinated plan next summer, really try to figure out good ways to gather the community input. And it's been a while since we've done a survey for the coordinated plan to really reach out to people to understand the unmet needs. I think it was like 10, 12 years ago, we did the last one for the coordinated plan. It's been a long time. And as we're hearing from the folks from SSU, they did their survey. I know they'll probably want to do a follow-up survey on that once we get the AFA program running and do more wheelchair accessible vehicles. I think that's probably a good plan for this one as well, is to do some sort of survey of folks as we're kind of getting out of COVID and try to understand specialized transportation needs for the next coordinated plan, as well as the next regional plan. So that's kind of all I had. I can't remember what else we were talking about last week in terms of what we're thinking for now.
I think one of the things we talked about was inviting agencies to share about the specific unmet needs they're hearing from their clients, whether it's, the regional center or Access to Independence or other organizations, so that we can hear a little bit firsthand from them. But if anyone has ideas or thoughts, we want to make sure it's, as wide of a range of possibilities as possible for what fits under an unmet needs, whether it's, a specific mobility type of service, or maybe it's a service area or a location that's lacking access to transportation, or any other thoughts that others have to contribute to what we might categorize under the unmet needs umbrella. So if anybody has any suggestions for presentations or thoughts, please let us know. Anybody right now have any thoughts? Jay?
I just had a kind of, I guess it's related to this in an earlier item. Brian, when you spoke about the AFA grants, I know that local taxi vendors had also applied as part of that grant. Is this grant going to be a single award, or is it going to be a split award?
So this current grant, the way the scoring and the evaluation criteria were set up over like 8 months ago by the board, it was whoever bid. You could bid whatever you want to do what you need to do, and we didn't have limitations on that. There was a pot of money available, and I think it was $2.5 million or so. And if one agency bid to do their project and it was that much, and they were the highest scoring, they could take it all for this current cycle. So that's kind of how this one played out. I think we've heard from a few different people who applied, or people who didn't apply because they kind of thought that the process was a little weird and hard for them, that we need to make some changes. So Ben's gonna, when he presents this Friday at the board, he's gonna talk about that. That here's the current one that we did that the board approved, last spring. But we know there needs to be changes to it. And so there's more money coming from the state for this project. So the next call, this was his first call. So the cycle 2 call will be tailored differently to find better ways maybe to do it, see how it works.
And that's great, because actually I was one of the evaluators on that, and I'd asked Ben about that, and I was waiting to hear back, whether it was, because I didn't know if it was like a 53-10 where it was, divvied up between multiple people or a single vendor. But I thought it was encouraging, going back to Wayne and others brought up, that there was a taxi vendor who did apply for funding to get some vehicles for this. So, that if it's them out there, plus, fact with the great service that they provide out there, that, could hopefully start preventing a multi-faceted plan to address that need. So, okay, thank you.
Just a comment on that. I think that what I was also, I also reviewed the proposals. And what I saw is that they don't have a plan for how to run a program or a business plan. And maybe it's something that we need to look into. How do we prepare these companies to have a plan, right? Because it comes up the age. So what are the logistics for having the vehicles and how to run it? So I think that was one of the major barriers for what I seen on the application.
Thank you, Jay and Alex. And I wanted to add that FACT has been in touch with the other group that did not or is not recommended for the award to see if they can join our brokerage and be a part of the program and get some indirect funding in that way. So we are talking with them as we speak. So just to let everyone know about that. And then do we have any other public comment? Or Marcy?
Hi, thanks. I don't really have a specific question, but the ADA training that the Cycle 11 grant recipients went through recently highlighted some unmet needs that there is not currently a solution for within the county with wheelchair accessible vehicles. And you know, we received the training, we were told what the expectations are and what rules we need to follow, but there aren't really any solutions currently to address those unmet needs. So this is something that's just going on in the back of my mind as a topic that we probably need to address as part of this continuing category.
Thank you, Marcy. If you don't mind, maybe shooting us an email with the specifics from that training that you would want us to review. And I know that we may have more questions after we get the follow-up from Sandag on that specific training. So that might give us some more room for discussion under this item. Any other member comments? No.
And Chair, there are no public comments on this item.
Okay, thank you. And next we have the transit operator updates, MTS.
Good. I think it's still morning, everyone. Biggest issue all the way around, this is both for paratransit and fixed route, is staffing. We're experiencing major staffing shortages. That's in every position from administration, operations, reservations, customer service, you name it. It's just a very, very tough employment market out there, unlike we've seen in a very, very long time. We are very aggressively working to address it. Job fairs, there's been changes in pay scales, everything we can possibly try and do, but it is affecting service levels. Our amount of route cancellations is higher than it has been in the past. On access, our on-time percentage and our onboard time and our hold times for reservations are above where they have been historically. None of it is where we want to be, and we're doing everything we can to work on those issues and striving to provide the best possible service that we can. But right now, it really is just coming down to a matter of bodies. We have the phones, we have the vehicles, we have the equipment, we have everything we need to provide the service. We're currently at about 50% of pre-COVID levels. And we actually had an 11% increase last month alone in the ridership. Not sure exactly what that was attributable to, other than more people re-entering the area. We were told also, and unfortunately, it looks like SDRC is not here today, but they're looking at more of their transportation reopening when the governor's emergency order expires for COVID in early next year. So that probably will have an impact on ridership in the areas also. Fixed route service, again, is faring better, but is still having some reduced service and some missed service. It's just a very challenging time out there right now. So we ask everyone to please bear with us and be as understanding as they can, and we continue to do everything possible to provide the best service we can for everyone.
Thank you, Jay. Any other updates from MTS? Okay, Robert, NCTD.
I'm going to mirror exactly what Jay said. We're having staffing issues as well in our reservations, our dispatch drivers. We're looking at salaries to see if boosting salaries will attract more employees. So we're looking at that. Just like Jay, my ridership is down 50%, but we had 11% spike last month as well. So we're trying to figure out where that came from as well. So I guess pretty much both agencies are having the same issue. We're looking forward to the regional center and some of those facilities opening back up next year, and hoping that'll bring some of our ridership back. We're using this time to go through and do retraining with all of our internal staff, using the downtime to kind of look at things, shore up our processes and just make sure that we have policies and procedures in place. They've been updated, staffing has been trained, and being prepared for when ridership comes back. So, Mary, anything?
No, thank you, Robert. Thank you.
Sorry,
Yes.
I just had one thing to add. We have several transfer points when we have people that are crossing between the two jurisdictions where MTS Access and Lyft will meet up. One of those used to be the VA. Due to all the construction and everything going on there, they asked us to no longer use that location. So we since have relocated that over to one of the UCSD trolley stations. On the new Blue Line. We actually have got a bench installed this week, so anybody that wants to get off of that bus and be able to stretch your legs and wait if the other vehicle isn't there for the transfer is there. And actually just the other side of the street from there at the trolley station, there are actually public bathroom facilities there also. So, and we're hoping first quarter next year that we'll actually get a shelter up there too. So we're trying to do everything we can to make it as comfortable of a spot and make sure we have all the amenities there. And it seems to be working out well for both agencies and a very safe, secure location for people to be able to transfer to.
Good news. Thank you, Jay. Any public comments?
I have no commenters on this item.
Calvin?
So I'm seeing some of the staffing issues, and so I at one point in my career, and I did a lot of job development, job carving, and I helped with a lot of blind individuals to be able to do work with the county of San Diego. So what we do, we train for specific jobs, and I would then create curriculum that would be able to do those jobs. And so that way blind people could take those jobs. So I'm curious, is it all related to driving? And I heard like administration, some of those others. So I'm wanting a little bit of clarification, and then I might be able to point you in some right directions to see maybe we could staff more with people with disabilities and stuff like that.
I would refer you to the HR departments at MTS, and I would assume the NCTD would be the same. They would be the best people to be able to work with you and address that.
And just to clarify for the record, that was Mr. Kelvin Crosby speaking public comments on item 8.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Looks like we have a member comment from Clyde.
There, okay. On the subject of staffing shortages, both MTS and NCTD have expressed that. I know of several people who've been job hunting, and I would suggest that you take a look at your web pages to see that they are in fact inviting applicants, because I haven't looked today, but the last time I looked, we couldn't figure out how to access what was available, what was required, how to apply. So I'm just suggesting take a look at your web pages and make them as accessible as possible, because there are people out there who'd like to work for MTS or NCTD. Thanks.
Thank you, Clyde. Sharon?
This is Sharon Beckus. I'd like to personally thank Jay. Last meeting, he mentioned to thank the driver for being there, for doing his job, or their job. Let's not use gender, their job. And I've been using that, and 2 people benefited, them and me. So I just wanted to thank you for that. That's made a big difference in how I feel and how they feel. So thank you for that. Then the other thing, I learned something interesting from Mary Baldemera about wayfinding. I had no idea what wayfinding meant. I thought it was something on an app. So I ran into a difficult experience at Sorrento Valley, transferring from the coaster to a coaster connection. I could not find out where I was supposed to go. Am I on this side of the street? Am I on the other side of the street? Where am I going? And I had a dickens of a time, and I ended up giving up because it was an hour. So I got on the next train, coaster train, back to Old Town to go back to La Jolla. So I did talk to Alicia at North County Transit. Dropped your name, Robert. That was a good thing because she liked you, so that's good. That was a real good thing. So, you know, so now I know about what wayfinding means, and I do run into difficulties when I get to some location, I don't know where I'm supposed to go. And the thing about the Coaster Connection, it's an MTS and NCTD partnership. And on the schedule, the printed schedule, it doesn't indicate the NCTD bus times to pick up there. And I wanted to go back to UCSD campus so I could go back to La Jolla the easier way than instead of going to Old Town. And that's not on the schedule. So I ran into some snafus, and I just wanted to say thanks to Jay, and also to give you feedback about, I had no idea what wayfinding was.
Thank you, Sharon. Any other member comments? Okay. Item number 9, the update for FACT and CAM. Sorry, short and sweet. Just a reminder that the FACT annual meeting will be December 7th at the San Diego History Museum, and all are welcome to come and attend. We'll have several keynote speakers and be meeting with our vendors and partners. So if anyone has not received a save the date or invitation for that and you would like one, please let me know and I can make sure you receive that. It's December 7th. And that's the only update that I have. Any public comments, questions? Member Sharon?
Yes, I'd love to go to the meeting, but it's at 8:30 in the morning. I have to leave at 7 from La Jolla to get there. So I would maybe someday like to see you start like at 10, so I wouldn't have to leave
I would love that.
early. So just feedback.
Sure. I think we have an hour of networking this time from 8:30 to 9:30. So I believe the call to order is not until 9:30. But we'll still have some beverages if you come in at 9:30 and networking time after the meeting. So, but yes, I wish we would start a little bit later too. That would be wonderful. Alex.
And we can always use the fabulous Claremont, and I can pick you up there. We can drive together.
I will take you up on that. I will take you up on that, Alejandra, after the meeting. Thank you.
Great. Remember to register, please. Any other comments, questions?
And there are no public commenters.
Okay, wonderful. So next we have the staff report from Sandag.
Hello, everyone. So I just have a couple of quick updates for you guys. A few of them I will be sending out eventually some links for public comment review where we want STAC to provide feedback. So 2 of those are going to be our comprehensive multimodal corridor plans. We heard the Kumeyaay corridor, but we also have a couple others. Our Coast Canyons and Trail and our North County CMCPs are going to be going to TC on January 6th. And so they will be out for public review. So once those draft reports are out, I will send them to you guys via email to get your guys' feedback as well. Our next gen rapid routes, they're looking at 3 potential rapid routes in the region. We are having public meetings for these tonight, tomorrow, and Thursday, so the November 15th through the 17th. And I can provide the Zoom links to those as well for you guys, so I'll send that out in an email. And then the last one for public review is our Coastal Connections Conceptual Planning Study. This is kind of a joint effort between Sandag, North County Transit District, and the City of Del Mar. We're looking at the 1.6 mile corridor on the Del Mar Bluffs, the Low Sand corridor. We are doing safe legal crossings there, so they have accessibility features in there. So we are hoping to early December get that out to public review. So I will be looking for you guys to provide feedback on some of those ADA concepts, as well as we will be returning to STAC on January 17th to provide a update and then really get that comment. But I want to get you guys those materials so you guys can really review those ahead of time. So look out for an email early December from me on that and with all those materials. And then lastly, SANDAG will be hosting a joint working group on February 9th, 2023. This is going to be from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. This will be hosted at the San Diego Central Library downtown. This joint meeting will be between all the working groups to discuss the 2025 regional plan that will include goals, scope, and vision. And so at early December also, I'll be sending out a calendar hold for you guys on that. But I just wanted to mention that this time. And then I will also again remind you guys of this February 9th joint meeting at our 17th meeting in January. And that's all. Brian, did I miss anything? Oh, Zach.
There we go. Good morning, everyone. Zach Rivera with SANDAG, Associate Grants Program Analyst with the Specialized Transportation Grant Program. Many of you are familiar with that program, but if you're not, it seeks to improve mobility for older adults and individuals with disabilities in our region. So just wanted to provide you a brief update on the Cycle 12 call for projects. So the SANDAG held a competitive process to allocate $7.9 million in available STGP funding. Applications were due back on October 5th. And collectively, 17 applicants requested $10.5 million in STGP funding to support 47 projects. So those are the applications we received. Next, applicants and projects were reviewed to see if they met eligibility requirements. And currently, eligible projects are being scored by evaluators external to SANDAG. And so more information will come as project rankings are drafted. So I would like to remind those of you that are applicants to complete Cycle 12 applicant survey. This survey allows us to understand why certain organizations applied, why they did not, and of those that applied, what worked well, what didn't, that sort of feedback. So that will inform future calls for projects. That information will not impact the competitive process this cycle. It'll just be used to inform future competitive processes. And I think earlier in your meeting, it was discussed about the AFA, the Access for All program. My colleague Ben Gembler wanted to just pass along that the funding recommendations are going to the board of directors this Friday, but as I said, you guys already covered that. So happy to answer any questions you have, but I'll probably be back to the STAC to provide more of an update once we have it in terms of the funding recommendations. Thanks.
Thank you, Zach. Any public comments or member comments?
There are no public comments on this item.
And none from working group members, it looks like. All right.
Sorry, I have one comment, please.
Sure.
Did we already vote on item 3, the consent item for the meeting calendar?
Yes, we did the raising.
Okay, gotcha.
hands.
Same thing, thank you.
All right. So this is our last meeting of 2022. Can you believe it? So our next meeting is January 17th at 10 a.m. And before I adjourn, I'd just like to remind anyone who is here who has not signed in, please come up to the front so you can sign in. And with that, I wish you all happy holidays and we'll see you in 2023. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.